Hello, good morning. Welcome to ChamberLIVE, the latest edition of our manufacturing group, Making in Lancashire, brought to you by the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce and sponsored by Seriun. Now, the views expressed in this webinar don't necessarily represent the views of the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce, but all facts were believed to be correct at the time of recording, which is the 21st of October 2020. Today we're looking at leadership, technology and economic recovery, all key elements for our manufacturing industries. And for the first time ever, we're delivering an event both physically in person here at Burnley College and also online to our ChamberLIVE audience that you can see on the video now. To officially open today's event, I'm delighted to welcome the CEO of East Lancs Chamber, Miranda Barker.
Thank you very much, Simon. Morning, everybody. This is wonderful. This is the first time in 7 months that I get to speak to anybody without risk of a dog here or a cat here appearing and encroaching on the screen and shouting at me. So it's absolutely lovely to see you, and hopefully this hybrid event gives you the way of making sure you can be present at things you want to be present at and see people, but also you can register for something and you don't have to make the mental judgment of, am I going to be well at the time, am I going to want to come out? You can make the decision to attend, you can put the time in your diary, and then you can choose, and as our friends on the screen have done, that you can choose to be there or you can choose to be here. And hopefully that means that we can get forward planning in your minds and in our minds for ways in which to meet people and see each other, and not have to weigh up how you're going to do that, because the option is there to change at any moment and be hopefully here or with us online. And it's great to see you all, and thank you very much to Burnley College and for giving us the feeling of security and control and understanding of making sure we're looking after everybody. And I know as a college, you've had to deal with that to make sure you're functioning. So it's lovely to be able to take advantage of that and now send that message to the business audience that this is how we can do it, and we can do it well. And this can be our way forward of doing things. And it's great to work with you, as always. And for those who don't know, and I know you'll hear much more later, Burnley College is really an expert on supporting really advanced engineering and manufacturing in our area. And there is a tour after the event for those who are here, to go and see some of those facilities. And if you are an engineering company in the area, they have some really fantastic facilities that you can take advantage of, and obviously a workforce on site to help you use those. So please do take that tour if you can. Obviously COVID safe and masks, etc., but that opportunity is there, so we'd love you to do that. I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad your businesses are all here. I'm glad we've been able to keep on going, and I know how hard it has been, obviously physically, definitely economically, but also mentally, to cope with the stresses, whether you were furloughing staff and worrying about their long-term job security, or whether you were at home and isolated and trying to cope with stresses that normally you would have people around you to help you. And one thing that especially people who are homeschooling while trying to run businesses, that's some sort of multitasking you really don't want to deal with. So it's brilliant to see you here. Please remember that the Chamber is, and we say this it's not tongue in cheek, we are your business continuity partner. We are there to try and make sure that you know everything you need to know, but also that you can influence what is happening in terms of the funding and the support that comes down from government. There's been an awful lot of interaction with government between individual chambers, but also through the British Chambers of Commerce, to try and tailor the business support schemes to make sure they're really serving companies. So keep on telling us what you're hearing about and why it doesn't suit you and how it could be better improved, so that we can keep on tailoring that support to best support our local companies. Examples of this are the kind of things that are happening now with the Tier 3 regulations that are coming in. And we're working with the local council leaders, because they have that 42 million all in all, and about 30 million which is to do with business support. And they are reaching out and asking, what do we need to do? Do we need to look at giving hotels the opportunity to voluntarily shut and then get this extra support for their staff so that they are there when the business picks up? Do we need to look at certain sector support that's different from other sectors? How can we make that case? So there's a local ability to change the funding that's there for businesses, as well as campaigning on a national level. So please do tell us, give us the ammunition and the understanding of what you need, and let us try and help change that so that it best supports your business. Obviously, we don't want locally to give the impression, or nationally to give the impression that business is on its uppers. If you have been like us and spoken to your clients and your customers and our groups of businesses around Lancashire over the last few months, you will hear that it is not all doom and gloom, and some sectors are doing very, very well. All of the manufacturing companies that we're speaking to that are dealing with manufacturing elements for the home, so windows, carpets, household goods, etc. A lot of our manufacturers are back on 3 shifts and not just for COVID distancing rules. And that's shown in our international trade figures locally. Across the whole of Lancashire, the international importing exporting figures have held practically steady at normal levels throughout the whole of the coronavirus crisis. There was a dip in May and June to do with supply chain overseas coming in, but actually we bounced back to pretty normal levels afterwards. So businesses is managing to find a way where it can, and that's a really important message for us to make sure we're getting to government, so they don't think imposing rolling national lockdowns won't hurt business because business is in a dire state anyway. No, business is doing its best to maintain jobs and maintain income and maintain economic activity to support jobs in all sorts of sectors. So we need to know those things about how your businesses are doing so we can make sure the right message is getting to government. Sam's already mentioned Kickstart. If you want to take on a young person and you want that work placement, that's fully funded for 6 months, and it's a great opportunity that if you're in that position to take up, we can help you with. Lastly, I just want to advertise one of the other things that Sam said and tell you about something new too. That Back on Track event that we have on the 3rd of November. Andrew Stevenson, our local HS2 minister, is coming to open that. And that's an illustration of the belief in local supply chains for the rail sector as a really strong diversification route for all of our manufacturing companies in Lancashire, to give an extra string to the bow and support them if you're dealing with a sector like aerospace that's really painful to be working in at the moment. And those supply chain officers who are coming to speak to us from Transport for the North and from HS2 and from Network Rail, we're not having to convince them to have local supply chains. They've got people there and programs to get local supply chains, and they are coming to tell us how they want us to work with them. We don't need to campaign on them to get them to do that. They and I have been talking for months about this. They are devoted to finding local suppliers. They just want to see the government's funding come as quickly as possible to get those schemes starting to be built now. Don't wait 3 years. We need that recovery and resilience important income now. So we need that investment to come. And that's the message to Andrew Stevenson as well, is everybody is willing. The companies are willing, the supply chain owners are willing, get that investment coming now. And to be honest, we don't have to convince Andrew either. Andrew knows that, but Andrew needs our impetus to give that back to Alok Schumer and to Rishi Sunak and to Boris Johnson. That investment needs to come now, and it will support our businesses, supporting the economy. So it would be great to see you there online if you can do that. And lastly, I just wanted to say another area where we've been supported through them is we've got £1.5 million into our RedCap project, which is there to support capital investments into low carbon technologies being developed locally in Lancashire, again providing a manufacturing route for our businesses locally. So soon you will hear more about that, but we've finally got the tick in the box about that, so I can talk about it. But soon you will see some publicity material. So it's absolutely brilliant to be here, and it's wonderful to be welcomed in our way from Burnley College, but also supported by our Diamond Ambassadors, Seriun, who sponsor our Making It in Lancashire group. Seriun and their managing director have been with us for so long and so supportive. It's great to have them here, but at the forefront of our manufacturing team. So today we want to welcome Andrew Brookfield from Seriun, who's the implementer and trainer of business applications for Seriun's customers. Andrew has got 12 years experience in a field and is responsible for delivering in a field. That's 12 years experience in a field.
Yeah,
Which field was this and what were you doing?
Farms field, I'm just chilling out.
Right. Traveling in your field,
Yeah.
and delivering products and training for a wide range of Microsoft solutions, including the Dynamics Suite Business Central, Customer Engagement, Microsoft Teams, and SharePoint. So come and introduce yourself to our audience.
So we get this slide. So, hi everyone. Thank you, Amanda. I'm Andy Brookfield, and I'm one of the application consultants over at Seriun. And I've been asked to talk today about well, manufacturing principles, and specifically I'm going to mention a few bits about Business Central, but this isn't really necessarily just about Business Central, it's more about sort of digitising your manufacturing processes and making sure you can record and understand where your costs are all associated as you move through the line. So first bit, start about Seriun. We're a leading MSP, is the person we've got on there. There's a thing called the MSP 501, which is a industry-wide thing that they've been doing recently, which has recognised us as #1 in the Northwest in terms of size and growth and technologies we understand. There's currently, well, it says on there 31, but that's out of date. We've now got 33 technicians and software developers working for us. We've been growing a lot, really, through COVID. I think we've took an extra 5 or 6 members of staff on since April. And we look to deliver secure by design, innovative products, and mostly in the small, medium business sector across all sorts of ranges. We've got quite a lot of manufacturers that we deal with, but we'll even deal with stuff like e-commerce, startups, or all sorts really, even accountants. Right. And at the moment, through the whole COVID stuff, a lot of what we've been doing is enabling businesses to do a lot more working from home, and we've got cloud everything these days, phone systems, file storage, and remote desktops for everything, even ones that work with CAD, which was always traditionally a struggle. So we've been in the sector for 15 years as a company. I said 12 years in my field, Seriun was one before I started there. And we've been delivering ERP products, bespoke software, infrastructure solutions, and here's a list of some of the manufacturing customers we've done stuff with. All sorts of sectors on there. There's one there that makes huge things out of steel and iron. And then you've got MTT who do all sorts of CNC robot things. And Ferguson who make production lines. Okay, so Business Central. I won't go too much into Business Central, but this is what we provide to our customers. And it's got in there, they call it an all-in-one business solution. And the idea behind it is that it's got your financials in there, so that would replace your Sage 50, project management, operations, and a bit of CRM in there as well. Now, the bit that we're going to be looking at really is more in line of production planning and manufacturing capacity. Now, again, I'm going to be using Business Central as an example here, and hopefully not telling too many people how to suck eggs, but it's just really how you can look at that in your business and analyse it in a different manner. So the problems that we encounter in a number of businesses is, still to this day, I'm going into businesses where their bill of materials is just literally the printed diagram from SolidWorks. And there's no sort of structure as to what the components are, how that links to the finished item, or a method in which that is produced. So the problem that you have with that is you don't really know how much it costs to make an individual item if you don't have all of them components tied together. A lot of the time as well in these environments, you've got people where, well, the job goes through the manufacturing and it's only at the end where someone gives a printed out bit of paper to people in accounts who take the stock off the system. And as that job moved through manufacturing, your stock levels have been wrong and you don't know how much you've got of anything, and you might try and sell more than you've actually got. And also doing all of this, you don't know, you can't analyse what's going on in your business, at least in the manufacturing side of things. So how would you go about being able to overcome these challenges of stock, costs, and also as well capacity? How do you know how much of your production line is in use? Well, the first thing that you could look at doing with that is recording the demand, what's needed, what your customers want, and what you want to make sure you've got in stock. So to achieve that, you can get a forecast in, say, an ERP, your system, whatever that may be. And again, some of this could be done in Excel or your pre-existing system if it allows you to do so. The next bit on there is making sure that you've got minimum stock levels. So like I said about holding stock, you want to know how much you want to have of that thing on hand. And it helps as well to have things like reorder quantities and preferred suppliers, so that if you are looking at the process to be able to automatically generate your purchasing, then you can enable that. Also got a price list. Next part that you could look at is recording your capacity. how much can you do? Now, Business Central breaks this down into departments, work centres and machines and people, but they are basically the resources in your business that you have to do things with. These are the tools, the people, the production lines, your painting machine, your CNC and all of that. And this is what you have available in your business to, well, make money with, make products with, aside from your stock. And the other element to that is to have a working calendar and absences and outages in relation to them resources. So that would be, your working calendar would be 9 to 5, Monday, Friday. That never happens in a production environment. And your absences and outages would be things like if you have Christmas close down or staff's holidays, but also any scheduled maintenance on any machinery that you've got, and making sure that you know that that capacity is not available because it's already been planned for use that isn't its normal production use. Yeah. And now you know what you need, what you've got, you need to know what you're going to do with it. And that's when you've got the processes being in whatever you're using. So this will be your finished items, what it is that you're going to make, the components which you use to make that up. So that's going to be your building materials actually being stored as a sort of hierarchical structure as to what goes into making this. And then this is the Business Central terminology for it, other things use different terms, but also the operations that have to take place as well to turn them components into your finished goods. So this in terms of routing as well, which is how it goes through the factory as it goes to its stage of completion. And if you did go through and you start to record all of these, yes, there's a lot of extra things to record, and it's not just getting it through the end of the door, but what do you get back out of it? Well, you'll get more accurate costing. You'll be able to tell that to make one or two of these things, it cost me this much, because you know that that machine takes this long, it uses this much power. You can record all of that and tie all of them different components together and get accurate costings for your finished goods. And rather than just looking at the bottom line of things go through, actually see that that thing is actually making me more money. You can see your capacities as you're going through on your production line, and you can know that you're 30% on one area and 120% in the area in another area, and you might want to double up on the one that you're high on, or start producing another product that can use that underutilized area of your business. It also enables more accurate stock. You'll know what you've got in the warehouse at what times, and data for analysing what's been going through in your business. Now, that can be a very useful thing to know, because you can then start to analyse, what if I changed how I did stuff? What if instead of making one of these every day, I made 10 of these just on Tuesdays, and gathered together all of these setup times, these checking times, these cool down times? How would that impact how much that item costs to make on an individual basis? And once you've got all of that lot tied together, you can start to use your data to make your business more profitable. Yeah. And that's really all I wanted to talk about, and just how to capture all of that. And again, it's not the Business Central, but if you're interested in that, then that's what we look at. But if you are pretty handy with Excel and things, you capture a lot of that with that. Also, it's your Again, so any questions for anyone? No? Cool. Thank you very much, then.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. I think the technology is working. I'm not sure. On that machine, I've got subtitles, so I don't know how I managed it. Press the button, and all of a sudden, subtitles are coming up for everything you were saying. And so I don't know where that's happening. And it coped with your accent as well. So I'm just going to let that run. So if you've got subtitles at home, then good. If you haven't, then that's fine. Then that didn't happen. Thank you, Andrew. Next, I think we've got your interest already with the title for this: Penguins, Undies and Lighthouses. Time to welcome Chris Smith. Chris is the owner and CEO of Pendle Group Holdings, managing director of Pendle Engineering and Pendle Bike Racks. He's got over 7 years of senior leadership experience, some of that in a field, some of it not. Leading teams of up to 100 staff, generating annual revenues of over 5 million. Chris is Lancashire born and bred, so we'll see how the subtitles work with his accent. And he lives out in the countryside with his wife Isabel. Over to you, Chris.
Good morning, everybody.
Perfect.
Thanks for tuning in, both here and also online. I'm absolutely chuffed to have the opportunity to speak at today's Making It in Lancashire Forum. Thank you to the East Lancashire Chamber for the invitation, much appreciated, and thanks also to Seriun for sponsoring the event. As will be no surprise to you, I'm absolutely passionate about retaining our world-leading manufacturing skill here in the county. And if just one person hears anything today that chimes with them, then that's good enough for me. Lastly, thanks to Neil and to Burnley College for hosting this hybrid event, for keeping us safe and for allowing us to enjoy a face-to-face event, which certainly for me, and I'm sure for many of you in the room, is the first one for a long time. So my plan is to talk for around 20 minutes, give or take. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I'm Chris, so I'm the proud owner and managing director of Pendle Engineering and Pendle Bike Racks. So you'll excuse my terrible parking there on my my drone footage. I bought a drone at Christmas time, and I actually used it during lockdown, so we closed. We had to close, but it allowed me to play with the drone. So that's our main factory. That represents about 80% of our floor space. We've got another building adjacent. That's about 80,000 square feet, and the other one's about 20, so about 100,000 square feet in total. The company started in 1977, which is before my time, but we specialise in subcontract steelwork manufacturing. So we prefer volume production, but the processes we do include laser cutting, CNC tube manipulation, CNC milling and turning, automated, robotic and manual welding, fabrication, and also we have an in-house powder coating line. We supply a broad range of sectors, including, but not limited to, rail, which is quite topical, defence, office furniture, leisure products, and we supply ourselves, our sister business, which I'll come on to later. At the moment, we are speaking to multiple businesses who are really convinced that the time is now to reshore their supply chains from overseas due to obvious events. And of course, if any of that applies to anybody either on Zoom or in the room, it would be remiss of me not to say, give me a shout. On the other side, our sister company, Pendle Bike Racks, sells bike racks and other cycling accessories directly to the public and via trade stockists. PBR exists to link people to their adventures. We want to build a world where the majority of people realise the potential in themselves and their bike. So in terms of me personally, I studied my A-levels at Nelson and Con College, sorry Neil, read maths at Durham University, hence the weird accent, and then enjoyed a 5-year stint in the actuarial profession, which is pensions and investments, before rejoining Pendle Engineering in 2013. I say rejoining because I swept the factory floor when I was 13 for £1.50 an hour every Saturday morning, and that was my first real job. I've been married to my wife Isabel since 2015, and last year I had the chance to bring her into the firm as our HR manager, which has been a fantastic experience.
This is on video.
It has, yeah, it's on video. Belle's a former secondary school teacher, and if I'm honest, I think she expected more of a career change than she got. So my plan today is to talk about some leadership traits. I've noticed that they've risen to the surface during more trickier times at the helm of Pendle. And for those of you who are keen on social proof and not just believing me, I'm going to link that to some of the books that I've been reading, audio books and real books. Now, to be perfectly honest with you all, it's not easy. It's not easy being in charge of a company, as I'm sure some of you know. I've personally made a lot of mistakes over the years. Now, if you listen to self-improvement podcasts, they'll call them learning opportunities, but let's face it, they never feel like them at the time, because we're all human after all. So what I'm going to talk about, I believe it's important, not just for me, but for anybody in a business context, but that's not to say that I think that I'm brilliant at them. I just do my best. I also don't think that they'll all work for all of you, but they might well be worth a try. Okay, so let's get into it. We're all penguin, really. So a little bit of trivia for you. Did you know that a group of penguins is called a raft when they're in the water, but a waddle when they're out of water on land? So now you've had what the you've had the trivia, so you can log off now and go home. So a number of years ago, I was introduced to a book, and the book was called Our Iceberg is Melting. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the book. Anybody? No? So it's written by a Harvard Business School guru called John Cotter. And I would recommend this book, particularly at the minute, because it essentially focuses on 8 steps for fostering change within an organisation. The book is pitched at an almost child level, using a fable, which suited me just fine. One of the penguins, named Fred, discovers that their iceberg home, as the title suggests, is melting. And the book follows Fred on a thread through his journey with his fellow penguins as they figure out how to secure the future of their waddle. So I won't spoil the ending, but two major steps were, firstly, accepting that you have a time pressure situation, which I think we all have at the moment. And then secondly, taking those sort of first tentative steps towards moving away from the relative comfort of your iceberg. The theme is quite broad, but ultimately I believe you have to remain open-minded to the challenges that are in your business model at all times and face them with open eyes. Do your best to know when the time is right to seek new territory, no matter how daunting that is. Try to manage those in your ranks who want to play it safe. Listen to your experts and try to win over the consensus in your team with open and honest communication. None of us want to have awkward conversations, including myself, because I'm one of the least confrontational people I know, but sometimes you just have to try. It's always better to step forward than to be pushed. So for us, that has meant looking at ways to de-risk the inherent nature of subcontracting, which is that you rely on other organisations for your work. We have been extremely fortunate over the years to forge some excellent, strong relationships with many loyal customers, and a lot of them local as well. But to assume that things will carry on the same way forever is probably not the smartest thing to do. For example, put your hands up if your firm had global pandemic insurance back in March. Sure. There's always one. So what have we done about it? Not buy a global pandemic insurance, but a good example for us would be PBR. So PBR has historically been a sub-brand within our company. We've had one limited company since 1977, Pendle Engineering, and Pendle Bike Racks has been a sub-brand within that. Now, as Pendle Engineering, we design and manufacture those racks, and then as PBR, we sell them. In the early 80s, we started doing that by mail order, and now we have a successful e-commerce website. Now, we took the decision to rebrand Pendle Bike Racks, and you can see the new logo here at the bottom right of the screen. We've worked very hard, particularly over the last 6 months, actually, to create something that we're really proud of. And so far, all we have launched is the truck, which I showed you on the previous slide. You might have seen it in the car park. It's pretty orange. We've also incorporated PBR as its own limited company, and the reason for doing that is to help sort of simplify the thought processes and allow us to pursue clearer goals across the two businesses. But obviously, Pendle Engineering will remain a manufacturing subcontractor serving its loyal customers, so don't panic. There's obviously massive potential for the bike rack business. The pandemic has given us a real opportunity to, I think, help families reconnect to themselves as well as nature. And bikes have a massive part to play in that. I firmly believe that. When you factor in the net zero strategy from the government, cycling as a whole market is going to explode. And that for Pendle Bike Racks is very exciting, but it's also uncharted territory, which is scary. So do look at the book. Do take some time to think about whether it applies to your own business, and I'm convinced it will. Because ultimately, we are all penguins on an iceberg. You need to know how you will know if your iceberg is melting. And you also need to have a rough idea of how you will take your waddle of penguins to new, exciting and successful places. Okay, number 2, wash your undies. So, put your hand up if you wash your undies. I can't see you at home. I assume you're all doing it as well, putting your hand up, which is a relief. Bear with me. So I listened to an audiobook this spring called 12 Rules for Life. by a Canadian psychologist called Jordan B. Peterson. Again, does anybody, yeah, some people have read it, yeah. So this book uses abstract ethical principles to come up with a dozen sort of axioms to live your life by and run your business by in the pursuit of, I guess, happiness. Now, I've picked out one concept that really resonated with me, and that is the concept of supersaturation. So let's go back to high school chemistry. If you get a glass of water and stir some sugar into it, it will dissolve. Yep. If you put more sugar in, it will continue to dissolve until it doesn't dissolve anymore. The water is saturated. With me? Oh, it's early. So if you start to warm up that water though, you can actually dissolve more sugar into it, right? Keep going until eventually you have boiling water with the maximum amount of sugar in it. Interesting, but more interesting is that if you let that mixture cool down, the sugar stays dissolved. That is supersaturation. Now, if you drop a single crystal of sugar into that cool mixture, the whole thing will destabilize, and all of that excess sugar over and above what you could have dissolved will crystallize at the bottom. It's like the whole solution was bundled up so tightly, crammed full due to the impact of increasing pressures. And all it took was a tiny external influence for the whole system to collapse. Not good. Now, if you see where I'm going with this, but just for the sake of completeness and that actually an analogy without a point is just a boring story, let me connect the dots. You know, we're in a world of massive uncertainty and unforeseen external influences. So I would suggest to you all that you don't overlook the key things that sit within your circles of control, because you do not want the last crystal of sugar to be something that you could have avoided with some discipline and forethought. So for example, for us at Pendle Engineering, I'm talking about paying our supply chain on time. So during lockdowns, particularly from the end of March, we didn't really know what was going to happen. Customers sometimes took the view that cash was tight and therefore were requesting extra time for payment. It's not a route we took. We saw the importance of paying our supply chain on time because, quite frankly, it would be them we would be leaning on in the recovery phase. Second example would be quality management. So you're all familiar with ISO 9001, I assume. We've been accredited to that standard since the year 2000, but we had our recertification audit in August. Bang in the middle of lockdown, we'd been closed for weeks, and it was really tempting to ask for some sort of extension or delay, but we tackled it head on, and we passed it without any advisory. Obviously, another one, a third one, probably more topical than ever, would be health and safety. Engineering environments are dangerous by their very nature, of course, and that's even without a pandemic thrown into the mix. But it is absolutely unacceptable to take your foot off the gas when it comes to safety. You have to keep banging that drum. Now that came into focus for me, particularly when we had a knock on the door last month from the health and safety executive. Now, that scared the crap out of me. As it should, because they knock on the door, badge in hand, and they say, we're coming in, whether you like it or not. Now, when you sit back and take a deep breath and you realize that you've already done the hard work and that you are COVID secure and your risk assessments are in place and your factory is clean and people are doing their jobs, then you realize that they're genuinely there to help and to make sure that your staff go home every day with 10 fingers and 10 toes, if that's what they had at the beginning of the day. We passed the inspection in September, which looked at far more than just COVID security, so there was no further action, which was fantastic. So even though I felt like I was busy in February, that busyness has been taken to a whole new level since the pandemic. I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way, but you're never too busy to do the basics, because if you don't, you might find yourself busier than ever. So my second takeaway would be to stay mindful of the tasks that can get buried at the back of your mind, but ultimately those things hold your organisation together. Wash your undies. Now, if you genuinely don't have the resources to wash your undies, you might consider turning them inside out. But I would recommend you only do this once and never admit to it. So So the vile trait, I'll steal some content from another thought leader. I'm sure many of you in the room have heard of Simon Sinek. Yep. So if you haven't, Sinek is a British-born American motivational speaker, and he has lots of successful books that all sort of centre on inspirational leadership. Google his TED Talks at the very least, or actually look at some of his books, audio books. Very, very interesting. Sinek says that people aren't attracted to what people actually do, they're attracted to how and why they do it. And the why is the sense of purpose that essentially drags us all out of bed every morning, 5:30 in today's case, for this event. That's a true secret to success. Simon says that if you don't know your own why, then how on earth can you expect your future customers to understand what you are all about and ultimately follow you on your journey through buying your services or what have you. So as a business and as a business owner or as a business leader, I think you'd be forgiven for sitting in your office over the last 6 months thinking we need to change our thinking in some radical way because we are in unforeseen times. But just because your iceberg feels like it's melting doesn't mean that you're no longer a penguin. Instead, I would suggest that you remember why you are a penguin in the first place and what it means. So going back to the first point, you all seem to be on board. So remembering why the business existed in the first place, I would say, is your lighthouse. And let me give you 2 examples of what that why looks like in my organisation. So Pendle Engineering basically exists to supply customers and to make their products successful through delivery of what we call QSVP. QSVP stands for Quality, Service, Value and People, and our entire organisation centres around objectives derived from those key themes. So just to share those with you now. I won't read them out, but they're there to read if you like. So ultimately, I know that Pendle Engineering is working well when the vast majority of the decisions that are taken are in line with one or more of these objectives. Also, I need to make sure that no decisions contradict the objectives. Give you some examples. As a result of the pandemic, our revenue has dropped. Do these no longer apply? As a result of the pandemic, we have had to let some staff go. Do any of these no longer apply? As a result of the pandemic, we've suffered from strains on our cash flow that we've never seen before, we didn't expect them. Do any of these no longer apply? So Pendle Engineering will weather the storm, of course, and it will be ready as possible to support its clients with their rebounds, which will in turn supply Pendle Engineering's rebound. And we'll do that because we won't lose sight of who we are and what makes us successful, and that will be the way we proceed. Now, don't forget, as leader of Pendle Bike Racks, I'm actually a customer of Pendle Engineering. So I know what it's like to look at a subcontract firm. Essentially, as Pendle Bike Racks, all I want is my product on time to be correct and to help me to grow my business. And that's exactly what we're trying to understand here from the other side of that coin. Ultimately, we're trying to build a major player in the UK cycling industry, and I think we can do it. So my final takeaway from this is really simple to say, but really hard to do. And that's to never forget why you are in business and what got you into it in the first place. Your why hasn't been proven wrong by the pandemic, so stick to your guns. So I hope that's sort of added a little bit of meat to the bones of my rather random title to this presentation. In terms of how do we drive this thing, I think sometimes it can feel like we don't really know how we drive it, we just do. And honestly, I feel incredibly supported by my senior team. It's not me, it's the team. And there's certainly no rule book. So I just thought it'd be worthwhile spending a little bit of time sharing some of the things that have served me well over the last 7 years, which are: 1, work hard to understand your business, understand its place in the market, and scan the horizon for your next move, just in case. Never lose sight of the basics of disciplined company management, because they will save your bacon. Remember why you're doing it in the first place, because the good times will return. Plod through the dark times and get there in one piece. Ultimately, I find, and I think many of you will agree, that leadership is hard. Leadership's incredibly hard. And leaders are human beings, let's not forget. We're all doing our best. So please do give yourself a pat on the back, and please do give yourself a break. And then after that, keep going. Because ultimately that's what we'll do. And that was it from me. So thank you very much. And I don't know if I've got a question slide. This is the question slide, if you like. So these are the books that I mentioned in the 3 pieces. So do take a picture of this or whatever and have a look. I'm not on commission, but I think at least one of them will probably chime with everybody. So do have a look. So yeah, that was it. Any questions at all? Please feel free. Thank you.
I've got one. I'm an avid reader, like you said, like yourself. I've read all the Simon Sinek stuff, and I just wanted to know how much of what you read or learn have you then tried to implement in your business, and how difficult have you found that to do? Because I read a lot, and you think to yourself, I've got to apply that, I've got to apply that, but actually doing it and sticking to it until you either realise that it's worked or not is easier said than done.
Yeah, totally agree. Really.
Chris, can you just repeat the question so that the online guy can paraphrase that question so that our audience can hear
I
it?
could remember it all. Along the line of how do you put it into practice, right? And that's the whole point of what we're trying to do, isn't it? Because now, so first things first, you've got to get your own head around it. You've got to understand what it means for you, because ultimately there is no right way to do it. There is no, as I said in my presentation, there is no rule book. So it's about how you first grow yourself as a leader and expand your mind to concepts that you wouldn't otherwise think about. Because in business, you are in business a lot, and you maybe don't look up and consider your wider horizon. So for me, you've got horizon building, but we all have different sort of challenges when it comes to implementing culture change in an organisation. Some sectors are much more dynamic than others, and obviously companies are different throughout. So I suppose it would depend entirely on the flexibility of your senior leadership team first and foremost. But then, who are those guiding lights in your organisation? We all know who they are in our organisations. Who are those people that you need to win over to your way of thinking, so that then sharing your message is a lot easier. Because I think the honest truth is that you can all come against a brick wall, can't you? And I think you might have a 100 out of 100 idea, right, that you will never implement in your organisation, but a 10 out of 100 version might work wonders. So you've got to decide where to pitch. I would say it's my fault. But yeah, don't know if that helps.
No, definitely.
Good question. Anybody?
We need at least one question from the online audience just to make sure the technology works. So if someone wants to unmute themselves and put a question to Chris, that would be great. Come on, don't be shy.
I'm here for an hour, so.
I'll ask a question then, Chris. John from PM&M.
Hi, John.
What do you see as being the biggest challenge moving forward? Obviously, I know you've covered off everything that you've mentioned in the last 6 months or so, but obviously the tier 3 and all that's going to go on. What do you see as being the biggest challenge, I suppose, in the next 6 months and probably through to March and beyond?
Great question. So, Pendle Engineering is, the company that employs all our staff, of course. So we've got a lot of what I consider to be a large number of staff who all rely on us to keep them safe during work. Obviously, the restrictions in the main apply to what people do out of work. We don't have the ability to allow people operating a 25-ton machining centre to work from home. So we've had to become safe, and that's been done. The risk assessments are in place. So for us, the announcements of last Friday have had minimal impact on what we're doing because we were already compliant. As an employer, you try and guide your staff outside of work, but you've got to be careful not to do that too much because clearly people have their own personal lives. As far as the business is concerned, as a subcontractor, it's all about supporting our clients. So there's definitely been a move towards more just-in-time style manufacturing and supply. So this is no fault of our customers. They don't know what their customers need. Obviously, at the moment, everything's up in the air. So everything's tying up a little bit from a lead time perspective. From the bike rack side of things, though, it's about trying to harness the current trend for health, well-being, family time. Nobody's going abroad, so we're holidaying in the UK. Why not take your bikes with you? I've been asked not to sell too hard on this bit. I'll leave it at that. I hope that answers your question, John. So no.
Any last questions either from the room or from the virtual room? Brilliant. Great. Well, thank you, Chris.
All right. Pleasure.
Nice to actually get a round of applause, isn't it, rather than this kind of music Zoom class that we've had in 6 months. So, brilliant. Thank you, Chris. Just before I hand over to our third and final speaker, Neil, appropriate at this point, I think, to thank them for their hospitality. It's nice to, as well as having real applause, it's nice to have a real sausage sandwich in the morning as well with these events. So thank you for your hospitality and also your flexibility in helping us to stage our first physical event in over 6 months and our first ever hybrid event. The technology seems to be working, touch wood, at the moment, so that's good. Right, I'll hand over to Neil. Neil is the Assistant Principal for Apprenticeships, Employer Engagement and Adult Skills at Burnley College. He was previously Head of Engineering here at the college. He's been in education and training for 26 years, working with a large number of apprentices and employers over that time, and he's recently received national recognition for his commitments to training and skills development.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Neil Brothers, like Simon said, I'm the Assistant Principal here at Burnley College, and I'm the proud Assistant Principal, because I think obviously if you've been in the college before, you'll see what a great facility it is. And I'm also proud of my title of Apprenticeships and Employer Engagement. I think you'll agree that apprenticeships are the way forward for industry. Yeah, we've got to continue to push apprenticeships, because the young people are our leaders of the future. And the other bit, the employer engagement, I'm so proud of that as well. Because without businesses, without the employees, then we can't have the apprentices. We need everybody to support the young people going forward. So basically, I'm proud of what I do, and I'm so happy to be here today. So thank you, Miranda. Thank you for your kind words, Chris. Thank you for that speech. It was great. So I'm going to talk today a little bit about our new program called Destination Recovery. Destination Recovery is something that we've developed over the last 6 months or so. I'm going to touch on it a little bit to start with, but then I'm going to tell you how it came about and what the journey that we've had over the last few years working with employers. The core objective of Destination Recovery is obviously to support employers and people as we get back into some kind of normality. There's a key focus on diversification for those people, and obviously for businesses as well. So Simon, in his introduction, mentioned the rail event coming up. I've spoken to quite a few employers over the last few months about how they're diversifying in their businesses. Can we, as a college, as an FE sector, can training providers and those training providers here today, can we support those businesses to help diversify? Have they got the skills to move into the rail sector? Do they need to upskill? Yes, they do, maybe. Can we support that? So Destination Recovery is part of that programme. And again, like I said, I'll touch on it at the back end of my talk today. Okay, so what I want to do first of all is just... Camera on.
No, you're okay. You're okay. We've got a side shot this way.
So what I want to do first of all is just talk about how we've got to that stage and how we engage with those employees. And like I said right at the beginning, I'm really proud of that. I think if we go back 5 years to Burnley College's engineering provision, it was an engineering provision for full-time students. So young people would leave school, they would want to do engineering, and they would come into college, they would go into a classroom, they would do a level 3 BTEC or a level 2 BTEC, depending on the qualifications that they came in with. So they sit in that classroom, they're taught by our lecturers, they do their qualification, which is off the shelf, the modules are the same as every college, and they will get that classroom experience. Is that the right way forward? Is that inspirational for those young people who want to get into engineering? We thought about how we would change that and how we would make our provision at Burnley College linked to the industry and make young people want to come to this college because of those links with industry, to give them an opportunity in the future. So we looked at how we were going to do that. And we looked at 3 things. We'd have to get, not new staff in, but we'd have to either upskill our staff to give them industry skills, because a lot of our staff have been here quite a number of years, and they knew exactly what they were delivering in week 13, lesson 3, module 4 kind of thing. They would know that off by heart and they would deliver that. But the industry was moving forward. The skills, everything else was going forward, and we had to get our staff back into industry to understand and have that knowledge of that skill that was moving forward. So we did that. We started putting our lecturers back into industry with the support of our employees. We recruited new staff from industry with no teaching qualifications, and we gave them those teaching qualifications, but they came with those skill sets for automation, robotics, whatever. Yeah, and that worked really well. We also had to look at the young people themselves, and we had to work with those businesses, because no matter what we delivered, was it right for you as businesses? Was the modules right that we were delivering? Was the content right? So we thought if you come to a college, it's the norm, isn't it, that they should get that qualification, whatever they're doing, whether it's a digital qualification, whether it's a construction qualification, that should be the norm for those young people. It's the wraparound and that extra support and that extra initiative that we can give them that will make them really want to go into that industry. So we started to do that as well, and we looked at how we could map that across the curriculum. And the best way to do that was to get the employees to buy into that curriculum and support that curriculum for us. So that was our strategic plan 5 years ago. And I'll just mention a couple of things of how we got that momentum going for that. We started a Young Engineers programme, and I don't know if you've heard of it, some people have heard of it. I know there's other providers do the same kind of thing. We started a Young Engineers programme on a Monday night for Year 11 students, and we had 12 on it 4 years ago. They came into the workshops, they did a bit of machining, a bit of CNC, a bit of electrical, etc. This year we had 150 on it. And we got the buy-in of the employees to support that Young Engineers programme, to come into to college, to speak to the young people who give their own time up on a Monday evening, 6 till 8 o'clock. And then employees spoke to them and told them about the industry. We got parents involved, we got the buy-in from mums and dads. We met mums and dads probably 4 or 5 times throughout that Year 11 year for their sons and daughters. And they got an understanding of what opportunities there could be. Because we put that parent in front of that employer and said, speak to each other and tell them parents what opportunities there are for their sons and daughters. And it worked really well. And as you can imagine, 150 young people now on a Monday night coming into Burnley College, giving their own time up to do those skills, is great for you guys as businesses going forward. It's got to be, hasn't it? Yeah. The next thing we looked at is that employee engagement bit and how we do that. So I think we'd started by this time to get that belief that from our businesses that we were serious about this. And we set up an advisory board for engineering, so that those businesses had an input into our curriculum. And that was the sole purpose of it. And again, we started with 12 on that advisory board. We now have 24 members of that advisory board. We meet 3 times a year. Okay, those members of that advisory board are training managers, or maybe engineering managers, not the CEOs, but the people at the level that know what they want on the shop floor, if you will. And they've supported our curriculum going forward. And again, it's worked. So we've looked at, and if you want to tour around after, you're more than welcome to. Guys, unfortunately, I can't do a virtual tour today, but anybody who's not here today, if you do want to come down, you're more than welcome to come down and have a look around. So we kitted it, we've got the workshop, we've got the facility. It is good for the young people. So we have the curriculum, but it's all that wraparound stuff, the automation and robotics, like I said, that gives them that additional skills to really when they go into that business. So there we had it. We had the young people, so we're speaking to schools, speaking to the young people about opportunities, inspiring them young people, and we had the buy-in from those businesses. That really works, and it's worked fantastically well. 12 months ago, I left the engineering division, and I was lucky enough to get a promotion to assistant principal, which is obviously fantastic for me. My roots are still in the engineering bit. And I thought that, okay, so now I'm responsible for the whole of college. Okay. So this destination coverage, this is where I'm trying to get to now, where it's come from. The first 6 months of my time as assistant principal was to look at all our apprenticeships across the college. And we've tried to not replicate what we do in engineering, because it's a different game, it's a different bag, if you will, different employees. So we've got our construction employees completely different than our engineering and manufacturing employees, our digital employees, our health and social employees, all different, but we've tried to do the same. So we're embedding that employer engagement into all those areas. And again, the momentum was picking up. Okay, we looked at our Themis brand of apprenticeships and business solutions. We split that, And the idea was that, and one of my colleagues is on there today, is Paul Sharples. He started pushing the business solution side and talking to those businesses. And then obviously, March time, it didn't stop us from doing what we wanted to do. And I think in a good way, it helped support what we were trying to do. And again, I'll explain in a second too. Simon, please tell me if I'm rabbiting on.
No, it's fine. You go for it. Yeah, plenty of time.
So, come March, assistant principal for apprenticeships, everyone went on furlough. We had 1,200 apprenticeships on programme. 480 of those went on furlough within 2 weeks. It was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. So all the hard work that I've just talked about in engineering and the other divisions, and probably other providers as well, it was just so, like I said, it felt like that was it. It was going to be a game over for all those young people. So we started, myself and Paul and the teams, we said, right, okay, we can't go into businesses now and say, what are you going to do? Are you taking offences next year? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? That wasn't the right time to do that. We said we make a decision. It's not to push apprenticeships, but push communication, support and collaboration. And we made a plan to do that, and we just started to talk to people. And it worked. So we got into businesses. We were all online majority at the beginning, and we did a lot of talking, a lot of communication. We spoke to the LET, we spoke to stakeholders like North West Airspace Alliance, and we were trying to find out what was happening. Because as FE providers, it's really hard. I'm talking about wanting to engage with you all. We're not going to change how you do your business. We're not going to do that. But we're here to support that. So it's really, sometimes we feel like we want to help and we want to get involved, but we're at that line where we just say to, look, come talk to us. Can we help? Spoke to Steve Fogg, and Steve Fogg said FE colleges and training providers will be so critical in the way forward because of that support. Universities as well, as we know. Okay, so we set up this, we started speaking to people, and it was mainly for the people that were being made furlough, being made redundant. We were asking those businesses what had happened to those people. But as we had those conversations, it certainly became clear that the businesses were really positive as well, that they were going to really push on and get back, making things, doing what they need to do to push forward. And we started thinking, well, we need to support the people, but we need to support the businesses as well. And destination recovery has become, the name just came out of nowhere, and it just said, okay, where do we need to be? What destination is it? And it's all about recovery. So that's where the name came from. So we've got this program now called Destination Recovery. And like I said, the key focus is on supporting businesses and people. Okay. And we want to work and support with you guys, with our people that have been made redundant, to say, come to college, come and talk to us. And we've got lots of offer. If I said to you, let's go and do this, this is our qualification manual, okay, that would not work. Our prospectus, if we say, right, okay, so you're an engineer, we've got all these engineering qualifications here, come do that. Is that qualification right for that person to go and recover and make a new career for himself? No, it's not, is it? Not at all. We need to talk to that person, because that person might have so many skill sets in one area. That sector might not be ready for recovery at the moment, but the skills that they have cross into another sector. And we're trying to do that as part of our Destination Recovery Programme. We've already mentioned the Kickstart Programme. There's lots of funding that's available for colleges and FE. So if you can imagine, we've got this box of tricks, and that's what I keep calling it, this box of tricks. There's no qualifications in there. It's just all our proud staff at Burnley College. So I have staff that are really proud to deliver the foundation skills, the maths, the English, the core skills that are needed for people with probably low level skills. We have our technical people who are so passionate about delivering digital skills or engineering skills or construction skills. And we have obviously our professional skills. A lot of our A-level staff are now buying into the employee engagement strategy of Burnley College to say we can deliver our high-end level of skills and leadership skills to those people that need it. So our Destination Recovery Programme is all about that. We want people to come in and say, I don't know what I can do going forward. I've got this set of skills. We will welcome them into college, and we will talk about all those different areas I mentioned. and we will give them an opportunity to diversify, to maybe change career, maybe upskill, maybe just talk to people about opportunities. And that's what destination recovery is. So it's no big trick, but to me, it's really important that people have somewhere that they can come along and talk to people, to give them an opportunity to maybe change from one career ladder to another career ladder with the help and support that probably they might not just get if they don't know where to come and speak. Does that make fair sense? So, you know, lots of things happened when I got into this role as apprenticeship assistant principal. I managed to get so obviously we became members of the Down Ambassadors at Burnley College, and that gives us an opportunity to talk to the higher level people at those events. I've dragged our principal along with me for 12 months, and she's not done a lot of employer engagement, but now she's loving it. She's loving the fact that she's speaking to other CEOs. We set up a little manufacturing group of people in the local area, so Baker, Fataba, BCW. We meet them once a month, and I get Karen in front of them. Karen's our principal, and she has them conversations at that top end level, and it's enabled us to really support those businesses going forward. So that's destination recovery. That's it. That's the journey where we came from, and the hard work that's been done over the last 5 years. And destination recovery, like I say, has developed and probably helped us to create that program from that hard work that's been done over the last 5 years. We're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. Our apprenticeships have dipped a little bit, as probably nationally they have, but we've seen a lot of positives already. I know Chris mentioned it as well earlier. Our construction apprenticeships are booming. Yeah, engineering and manufacturing is not as busy at the moment, but talking to employees, they're picking up as well. Digital apprenticeship, digital support, you know, it's all there. So the future is good, and it really is. And it's just a case of making sure that you know, we all work hard to make sure that them young people and people being made redundant and businesses that want to diversify collaborate together. Training providers, colleges collaborate together as well. So if businesses come along to us and we can't support that person or that company, then we need to be pushing them to other colleges, to other training providers that might have that skill set and that availability to upskill them people and give them what they need. Okay, I've done that.
Brilliant, thanks.
If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to take them.
Yeah, questions are compulsory. We need one from the room and one from the virtual room, I think, please.
Yeah, I've got one, please.
Go on, Vicky.
Hiya, I'm Vicky from Training 2000. Hi, Neil.
Hiya.
I just wanted to ask, have you noticed this year more of a transition in young learners kind of going down the route of FE as opposed to apprenticeships because of probably nervousness around COVID and kind of the future with apprenticeships?
Absolutely, Vicky, yeah, and you'll probably understand the same process. So if you go back to March, so I mentioned the 400 apprentices that were put onto furlough, but during that time, as I know Training 2000 as well, it's the busiest time for recruitment. So we've gone through this process of recruitment. We've probably had about 500 or 600 applicants for young people that wanted apprenticeships starting in September. Parents must have been devastated that these young people have set their hearts on working. Was there going to be jobs available in September? So we looked at that as, okay, so there might not be those apprenticeships available in September, but what can we do to make sure that and encourage and support those young people and say, look, there will be opportunities for you. So we set up, and as you probably know, we set up the pre-apprenticeship programs, the traineeships. I think engineering, we've got 45 on our pre-apprenticeship program. And what we've done, we've asked employers that probably didn't take on this September, not to sponsor those young people, but to mentor them throughout this first year. So we've set up our pre-apprenticeship program and it's part of them qualifications, are part of that apprenticeship anyway, what they wanted to do. Our employees are coming down. We've got some second-year apprentices that are not back in the business yet, that are still on furlough, that are working with those young people as well. We're having parents' evenings, we're having open events. I think, and Hannah's in here today, she's already invited those employees down to talk about opportunities in January for a January start and things like that. So as much as, you know, it was a real worry, we've turned it on its head, and those young people, believe it or not, that 45 are so passionate and they're working really hard because they know now that if they're sure willing that they've got a chance of working with these employees already. So we'll probably carry on with that pre-apprenticeship course going forward, because every year we have young people that don't get that apprenticeship, not through any fault of their own, maybe just don't achieve the GCSEs, etc. So we'll probably carry on that pre-apprenticeship programme to support apprenticeships going forward. And I'm sure that, again, if, you know, providers, colleges do the same, then businesses will not have to panic about finding them young people when they're ready. Yeah, is that okay? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We need one from here. Come on.
Thanks, Vicky.
I'm not going.
Miranda looks like she's got a question.
I've got a question.
Okay.
Neil, can you quickly just give a little introduction to the kind of kit that you've got downstairs, so that those businesses think, oh, can I've got time for a talk to go and see this? But also those of you on the screen can decide whether you want to take Neil's invitation to come and visit. Because the stuff they've got downstairs for those apprentices to work on, but then also do work for your phones.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
they are a construction partner for you, and you need to know the level of kit they've got. So please do tell us.
Yeah, so I'll speak about the Advanced Manufacturing Centre. And again, we've got the basics, as you can imagine, the basics for apprenticeships. We've got all the fitting skills, we've got all the benches and the welding facility. And then we look at what we've got for those additional skills. We have a composites area, we have a clean room, we have an autoclave. We now work on, we have a composites instructor in there that we've had for a couple of years now that was from Formula One. So he delivers that. We're working with lots and lots of employees on different areas. We have a CNC manufacturing centre, lots of Mazak machines. We have, it's testing now, we have automation, so we have robotics, we have PLCs, automation. So Fataba, as part of that manufacturing group, Fataba donated a robot for us. So we have a live working robot, as well as family educational robots. We have
3D printing.
yeah, 3D printing. You tell me. Yeah, with lots of stuff. So with everything you can imagine, and it is worth a look. Yeah, so it's a great facility, as is other facilities at providers and other colleges. And that's what I'm saying about that collaboration bit. It's critical. We're not saying bring everybody to Burnley College. We're saying if come to Burnley College and talk, and like I said, we'll support them, that training. If you need that training, if you need that advice and guidance, with Vicky and Training 2000, with Nelson and Form College, that's what it's about. I'm proud of saying that, and you know, it's not about us trying to get all the businesses. I'm not here for that, and I'm sure that's coming out, that it's the passion that we want the industry to survive and things like that. So
Brilliant. Okay. Any last questions? Oh, yeah. Anita.
So I'm not familiar how apprenticeships work. So do you spend time here and then with an employer?
You do, yeah. So if you look at, I won't talk engineering, so across all our sectors, we have 7 divisions, so construction, engineering, digital, like I said. Apprenticeships it's work-based learning as apprenticeships, obviously. So they work in the workplace and they have to do some off-the-job training. Different companies will do it differently. So it might be a day release option, it might be a block release option. And we have what we call a first year off-the-job training. So we have a workshop that is full of apprentices in engineering that don't go into the business for 12 months, that work in our workshops. So I don't know if you noticed this morning, there were quite a few students knocking around at 7:40 to 8. They're our first year engineering students who start at 8 o'clock. So they clock in, they clock out. It's making that transition from school or college into a working environment. So that's the off-the-job bit, and the rest of it is done in the workplace.
What's the age range then? Is it 16 to 18?
It's any now. It can be any. Yeah. So we have obviously a large chunk of ours are 16-year-old school leavers, but then we have our full-time education in engineering. So a lot of ours that do level 3 BTEC maybe will then get an apprenticeship when they've got 2 years of the knowledge side of it as well. So 18 plus, 19 plus, lots of different options. And Chris knows that. Chris takes apprentice, don't you?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks, Anita. Oh, one more question and then, yeah.
One more.
Just to understand the impact that COVID's had, and obviously in our region we've got some big players in the market that are closing down or reducing in size. Has that impacted the number of potential students coming to
Students or apprentices? Well, I'll answer that question, but both. Our full-time, so our full-time students, we've not really noticed a difference, and we're up on numbers again. So we've over 2,000 for 16 to 18 students now.
I'm thinking more in the engineering sector.
Yeah, so in the engineering sector, again, full-time is quite busy. So I mentioned the pre-apprenticeship programme. Our apprenticeship provision in engineering has dipped slightly because those manufacturing companies are just not recovering yet. But we're hoping that will pick up. So, like I mentioned, and Hannah set this pre-apprenticeship program up. So traditionally, a traditional start for apprentices would be September. We're looking at now September, a January start as well, and then Easter starts as those businesses start to recover. Wish we had a crystal ball, but we don't, as I'm sure. But we're in the process of making sure those young people are ready in January and ready at Easter if employees want to recruit again. Which the feedback that we're getting from our communication and our discussions is that a lot will be looking at that, you know, and that's us trying to be proactive. And like I said, and the other providers and colleagues will be the same. We have to be. Because if we don't, then we're not doing justice to all young people. So the sector is, we're a little bit down on start numbers, yeah, and I'm sure everybody else is in the area, but you know, we're hoping that over the next 12 months that we'll get that back to normal and we'll be stronger with it, that 100%.
Great.
All right.
Thanks, Neil.
Okay, no
Miranda.
problem. Thank you.
So firstly, let me thank our speakers, Neil and Chris from Pendle, and Seriun for sponsoring and obviously for speaking and telling us about Seriun today as well. And it's great to see you. But I just want to use a little bit of our available time to first of all tell you about some of the things. Neil spoke about the way we've had to learn how to do things differently. So I wanted to tell you a few things that we're doing differently. And then I want to poor staff, I want to go off reservation and do something completely different they weren't expecting. So I'll talk about that in a second. No, it's not that. So obviously we've been the same as you. We've been having to figure out how to do things in a completely different way that we never intended to. And as Simon touched on, one of those was ChamberLIVE, was inventing the whole of how on earth do you do things like this. And this is the next evolution of that in terms of how do you do a hybrid thing. So we'll come to something slightly different in a minute. But obviously a lot of things have had to change. We aren't doing our Chamber Awards, the Beavers isn't happening across Lancashire, and we haven't seen all of those awards programmes that we would normally see at this time of year. What we have done, and what a lot of organisations have done, instead of those awards, is we've created something called Business Heroes, where we've been talking about the businesses who, throughout the COVID crisis, have really stepped up, have moved into manufacturing for the NHS, have supported their staff above and beyond what we would expect people to try and do. And there's a national programme of trying to recognise those business heroes. And in the room, we've got Annette Weeks from PDS Engineering, who is one of our East Lancs business heroes. And PDS went really early on into manufacturing for the NHS, didn't you? So not just trying to run a world-class engineering firm, but we'll support the NHS while we're at it. And PDS really led the way on that. And then, more than that, Annette pulled together a group of manufacturers across Lancashire to try and organise that really bespoke manufacturing for what the NHS needed, the COVID-19 group. And she led that single-handedly while being a mother and managing director of one of our greatest local engineering firms. So Annette is one of our East Lancs business heroes. And you will be hearing more and more about those over the next few days because they're about to hit the press and be announced. Another one of the different things that we've been involved in is delivering with government support something called peer networks. And that's just kicking off as well. And we always try and stick close to the things that we're really expert at. We don't want to be a general, we can do everything for everyone and be a generalist. We're really good at certain specialist things. And one of those is being there for manufacturing. And Paula Gill, who, Paula's there for those of you in the room. Can you do a room shot? Or is it just on a random?
I can do a room shot. I can do a room shot. There's your room shot.
A room shot. Paula, wave. That's Paula, everybody. Sorry, this is going to be off the cuff. So Paula is working with us running a peer network for the area. Paula runs the peer network under the headline of the UK Circle of Life. And it is there for our manufacturers who are looking, facing this really hard problem of dealing with aviation and areas of business where it's not a reliable order book anymore, and looking for opportunities to diversify. So Paul is pulling together a group of our local manufacturers to explore diversification opportunities. We hope some of those will be in the low carbon field, where we've obviously got a specialism supporting them. So Paul is looking for engineering firms, manufacturing firms who are looking to move into the diversification space and want to come together as a little peer group to work through that together and deal with the hardships of how do you do that and get to the end. And also through that Red Cap project, if you are a business that's looking to diversify, especially into low carbon technologies, and there's a cost to that, for tooling, we can help you fund that. We literally have money. So talk to Paula, talk to Neil. Neil could help funnel things, and Neil could be involved. So
We've already been talking.
and Chris, and you've got Chris, and you've got PDS, and so this is where I started to think. So please talk to Paula afterwards. You guys, please reach out, talk to us if you want to talk to Paula, and we'll put you in contact. I'm pointing at the screen, and they can't see I'm pointing at the screen. You guys, you want to talk to us if you want to talk to Paula, and we'll put you in contact. But this then got me thinking about this type of event and what we are missing. Those of you on the screen who have seen those room shots come by occasionally, you'll notice what we've got is we've got 20 plus people sat nicely spaced out and well behaved in a lecture theatre. So that works. But what it doesn't do is enable you to network in the same way. It's been lovely speaking to people this morning. It's been lovely having people standing socially distanced while eating their breakfasts. But we haven't had that same kind of milling around in the same way. So you're not able to get as close to as many people. So you don't know who's in the room. So in a minute, when we closed off from our ChamberLIVE broadcast, to those of you who are coming to future hybrid events, we're going to try and see if we can get everyone shouting out who they are. So then when you're going on your tour, you know who you want to be stood 1.5 meters, 2 meters from and talking to with your mask on, because otherwise you wouldn't know that the person on the other side of the room is the person that you need to meet. So we'll do that in a minute once we're off video. So the last thing I need to do officially from the video side, well, two things. One is to say, please keep in contact with us. Okay, you've seen the chamber brief that comes out once a week. On the end of that, normally, are the contact details if you want to reach me and tell me about that business support. But remember, we're also there as the helpline for you. If you've got any queries, you can't find the answer, give us a shout. It'll probably end up being me when you get to the end of the phone line. I will try and find the right person to help you. So the last thing officially, apart from saying thank you again to Seriun, to Chris, to Neil, to Burnley for hosting us, and this is great, is to just give you again that reminder of future events that we're going to be looking at. On the 27th of October, we've got in conversation with Gordon Brown. On the 3rd of November, we've got that backing track session looking at how you get into those supply chains for our rail contracts to come. And they are literally those supply chain experts. On the 11th of November, we've got an employment mock disciplinary investigation hearing with Forbes. Last time we did one of these, it was brilliant. You could have heard a pin drop. It was excellent. It's such a pity we're not in the courtroom setting again. Next time we do one, we'll put it in a hybrid one, I think, so that we can have that element for those of you who want to be in the room of that silence when everyone was interrogating the poor person who was the victim. It was great. So it's really enjoyable. And on 17th and 19th of November, we have those Diamond Ambassador events with our Diamond Ambassadors. And Debbie has also given me a reminder of the next hybrid event, which is on the 25th of November, Construction Connections, also at Burnley College, because we now know that this works, which is great. So I will just give us the opportunity to officially thank everyone who's here and thank everyone who's come online and to close this event today. So thank you very much. Those of you in the room, don't leave. Those of you on screen, you'll have to find out what happens next time. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here.
Thanks for watching this ChamberLIVE video from the East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce. If you've enjoyed this content, then you might enjoy some of the other content that's on the screen now. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel.